Hello, everybody. This is Karen, just doing a sound check. If you could hear me, if you could type into the chat, yes, I can hear you, or set up one of the happy face emojis so that I know that you can hear me. We'll be starting in a minute. I thank all of you for getting here on time. Yay. Oh, I'm getting some cute little icons. I do like that feature. It makes me feel very happy. And again, if you have any questions, just feel free to type them in the Q&A, and I will be trying to check them as often as I can. I'm going to start off with a quick poll. And that is everybody seen the poll? I'm looking for topics. I think I have a lot of topics for the next couple of meetings. I'm thinking of doing the custom homepage dashboard on the next one. Oh, my goodness. That's a popular topic, but it's running a close second with automations. Oh, come on, guys. Right now, I'm split like 30, 30, 30. So, yeah, if there's other topics that you would like, throw them in the Q&A. Because again, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that home screen for the next one, unless there's an overwhelming response to do the automations, which there might be, because there's so many cool topics, and I'm trying to keep these webinars fairly short because there's just so much information. So the topic I'm doing today for the custom canvases, there's a lot of information. It was probably even a little bit too much for one day. I'm trying to get to the stuff that you guys want to have the most. So please type it in the Q&A. Please fill out that little survey, and I will be so happy. And we will be starting in 1 minute. And if the people are late, they'll just have to be late. You guys want those automations? That's cool. And Amy, I know you're on the call. I always like to take guinea pigs when I'm working with people. Amy might be my next guinea pig in 2 weeks because she had an idea for something that I think could be an automation. So I might just be using her example, kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Thought you'd like that. Okay, so we're going to get started. Everybody see my screen okay? And again, I think at this point you all know who I am. This is Karen Fredericks. If you don't know who I am, I'm still Karen Fredericks. Missy, you might have missed the survey. I had a poll up and now I just took it down. If I have the poll up, then you can't see my screen. But you could certainly type in the comments. I think the poll included automations, roles and permissions, and customizing the homepage dashboard. So if there's something you would like to have covered, Miss Missy, please feel free to type it in the Q&A. Okay, so this is, believe it or not, I think this is our 6th webinar that I've done now. Again, I'm going to be doing them on the 2nd and the 4th Wednesdays at 12 p.m. So kind of mark your calendar. If you can't come, you can't come, but I'm going to keep doing them until nobody wants them anymore. So today we're working with custom canvases. So we're going to talk about creating custom canvases. There's 2 ways to do it, a couple of ways to do it, from scratch or from an existing template. Now, before you begin, this is your mother, Karen, Coach Karen, talking to you. You want to plan this out. First of all, the standard layout, we went over that 2 weeks ago. That's where you add all your fields. You need to create your fields first. Theoretically, you can create your fields by doing a canvas, but it's a pain in the neck. It's much easier if you have all your fields existing in the standard layout first. Then you'll be able to lay them out. I've had a couple people dive into the canvases first and their fields weren't there yet, and then they had to keep going in and out. So get those fields in first. The second thing is you're going to be designing. Now, I have to say this is probably my least favorite topic. I am a brilliant person when it comes to data, I am a nitwit when it comes to anything artistic. I am the least artistic person you will ever meet. So even going back when you guys were using your act layouts, I know all the tools, I know all the tricks, I know all the buttons, I know how to do it. Do you want me to do it? Probably not, because I'm not really that artistic. So if you have somebody on your, if you've seen a screen from another program, some of you have looked at proprietary software and you said, wow, I really like the way their screens look. Take a screenshot. You could go into the internet and say, hey, typical CRM screens, get a picture, and then you could try to replicate it. But have an idea going in what you want it to look like and what's going to be on there. So when we create a canvas, we're going to have three options. We can have a totally blank screen, and you're going to build it from scratch. That's doable. There's Zoho templates. I'm going to be showing you those in a minute. Zoho comes with, I think, 12 canvases that you can use and make your own, change the colors, whatever. And then if you're my customer, and if you're on this webinar, you're most probably my customer. When we started your trial, I threw in a couple of canvases. I threw in one that looks like the standard act canvas. That's the one we're going to be looking at today. I threw in another one that I did for a client of mine, and it was a little fancier. I threw that one in as well. Or like I said, you could use the Zoho templates that come out of the box. So first, we're going to get our naming conventions. In ACT, we have a layout. That's all we have is a layout. We're talking about layouts. Some people call them templates. Templates are things that you send like emails and letters. Your layout was how you had your fields designed. And we had a layout designer. And yes, you could change the color, you could rearrange the fields, but you had a layout designer. There was only one thing. In Zoho, we have layouts and we have canvases. So the layout is a thing that comes out of the box. It looks like this. And it's going to have your things that you're used to seeing in the middle of your ACT screen are going to go down the left-hand side. Your things that you're used to seeing on the left-hand side in ACT go across the top. And it's limited to 2 columns. They've told me for a couple of years that they're going to make this 3. I've yet to see it, so I can't tell you, oh, next week it's going to be there because I've been waiting for a while. But that's your standard layout. And of course, with that layout, you can add sections. Like I have a section here for contact information. You have a section for customer information. So it is customizable. You can have several layouts. You can have the standard layout, then you can have your company layout. It is customizable. I'm finding right now 50%. I've done over 300 conversions from ACT to Zoho. I'd say about half of the people said, this works fine for me. It's easy, it's bright, we like it, it looks modern, it's great. However, for the other 50% of you, we have canvases. Now, this I took and I modeled it after one of the basic ACT layouts. And you can see we have this business card. Stole that right from ACT. Please don't tell them. I put these things in the middle for open activities and notes and opportunities, just like you have in ACT. Can't take this stuff and move it over the left-hand side. It's still going to be up at the top. I think you can live with that. But this is that standard layout I put in. We're going to be customizing it today. This is one I did for a client. In all just full disclosure, I kind of took one of the ones that were out of the box, played with a little bit, and came up with this. They had this graphic, which kind of bugged me, with all due respect to the client, because it's floppy disks. And I don't know the last time any of us have actually seen one of those floppy disks. If you have, you're probably too old to be on this webinar. But you could take this, I gave it to you, and it's got the things across the middle, and you can add tabs, you can add fields, you could slap your company logo up there. I gave that to you as well. That's why you've got 2 canvases that I dropped in. Now, you can have multiple layouts, and you can have multiple canvases, and they can be assigned to specific users. So you might have somebody that's kind of young and frisky, and they're kind of used to, they came from the Salesforce environment, they want the basic layout, you can assign it to them. Then you get somebody like usually the CEO or the father of the CEO who's used ACT for 25, 35 years. They would die. Their life would end as we know it. I'm sorry, I just got a message that said somebody can't hear. Is there anybody else that's not hearing me? I guess it's kind of a dumb question. Can everybody hear me? Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me? Yeah, okay. Nicole, see if maybe your speakers are turned off, because everybody's saying they can hear me. So I think it might be your speakers are off. And I guess that was kind of dumb to answer that to her when she can't hear me. Now that I'm thinking of it. Sorry about that. Anyway, we can have multiple canvases. You can assign them to different people. And in fact, sometimes if you're working on a new canvas or a new layout, you could clone it. Everybody could be working on the existing one, and while you're developing something new. So to get to your custom canvases, we go to that little gear knob, or the rosebud, as I like to call it. And that's your gear icon. And in the rosebud, we get into our setup area. You go to canvases. By the way, those little yellow dots, and I'm not sure what in the world that's supposed to be, but whenever you see those yellow dots, it means it's a new feature. The canvases aren't actually a new feature. I think they've been around for maybe 2 years, but they keep adding new features to it. So when there's like a changing feature, a feature that's getting better, you'll see that little yellow sign. So don't be surprised if you go into the canvases, I don't know, a month from now, maybe they've added some more features, because that kind of means it's fairly new or it's still under construction. So you go into canvases. Once you're in that canvas area, this is the important part. You need to be in the detail view. We could customize our list views. If you want your list view, not only to have certain columns, but maybe to have pictures in it, or to take up 2 or 3 lines, you can actually customize your list views too. That's not what we're doing today. We're customizing the detail view. You're going to do it in the web. I don't think you need, and again, when you're making these canvases, try to find a monitor, doing it on a monitor that's typical of what your users could be having. If you've designed this on a little 14-inch laptop, it may look great, but then the other people are going to see a lot of white space. Vice versa, if everybody has little laptops, you design it on your 35-inch ginormous monitor, they may have to scroll back and forth. Okay. And Missy, thanks for typing that in the Q&A. I should have thought to do that. Thank you, Miss Secretary. So we're going to make sure that we're on the web. We have layouts, or I'm sorry, canvases that we can make for all modules. If you have a custom module, we can make a layout. If we have a contacts, you can make a layout. If we have the deals, you can make a layout or a canvas. Same thing in ACT. You had to make separate layouts for each of your modules. It wasn't like, oh, I could make a contact canvas and it'll work for the company module. It doesn't work that way. So you want to make sure you pick contact. Then if you want to make one from scratch, you're going to hit create record detail page. Pet peeve of mine, I wish it said create new canvas. I hate when they say, well, this is the canvas feature, but we're creating a new record detail page. Take my word for it. That should say create a new canvas. If you want to take a little white out on your screen, just kidding, but it should say canvas. So you're going to hit create new record page. And it's going to take you to the screen. You're going to select what module you're looking at for contacts or for deals or for whatever. And you're going to see all these templates down here. And of course, there's a little scroll button. I think you all know what the scroll button is. And the object of the game is to click on each of these little samples they give you. And if you like one, you're going to hit select. Okay, not too hard. So you're just going to go here, look at all the little samples. And I think they gave you maybe a dozen. I'm not sure. I didn't really count. But, I picked this one. If I wanted to start with that, I could hit select. And don't worry if you go down a wrong path. You can always delete it if it turns out not to be what you really wanted. Or if you want to start from scratch or use the ACT template that I gave you, you're going to hit cancel. And when you hit cancel, you're going to get a nice blank layout. And I'm going to go back and show you how to start editing that ACT one next screen. I just want to explain what these canvases do and what the theory is. If you've ever worked on creating a web page, or if you're a graphic artist, you're familiar with the idea of like a grid. You kind of take boxes into a grid, and then you fill in the elements. So this is the same thing. You're going to kind of have a grid, like here I want to have some fields, and here I want to have my notes, and here I want to have my activities. So that's why you want to kind of sketch it out or take a picture of your existing act layout or get a picture from somewhere. So you're going to add those elements, and then you're going to drag and drop where you want the elements to be, and then you're going to put your fields. So you might have created a blue box with a purple background or something, behind it, purple edging. So you create that first, and then you're going to drag your fields on top of it. So to start working with that act layout that I gave you, again, you went into the little rosebud, you went into your settings, customization area, canvas, and detail view. Make sure you're in that detail view or you're not going to see this. And you can go into all modules, and you should see something. You'll either see act contact or contact one or just contact, whatever. If you get the wrong one, you just back out and go back in. You're going to hit the ellipsis, which means ... more, and you're going to hit edit. And then you're going to see this act layout that I made for you. And again, 100% customizable. Okay, now this stuff down the side, this is kind of your navigation bar. We'll be talking about this in a minute. And of course, this is kind of your canvas that you're working on. Okay, so here's the basic commands. And if you can remember these three things, you got 90% of what you're going to be doing right there. So you can right click on a field. So if you right click on a field, it's going to give you the choice of change field. And it's going to list every single field in your database. That's why you want to have those fields created first. Okay. So if you do a right click on a field, hit change field, scroll down, and just change it to last name or salutation or whatever you want the field to be, done. Don't forget, on this tab that I gave you, or on this layout canvas that I gave you, we have an other info tab. So you can click on the other info tab, and yes, you will see more fields. And you could just right click your heart away and change all those fields. And that's why you want to have that little piece of paper in front of you or a screenshot of your existing act layout. You can change all those fields. If you don't want a field, again, you're going to right click and you're going to choose delete. That field doesn't get deleted out of your database. It just gets taken off of that canvas. Pretty easy? Okay, we're done. Just kidding. Okay, so I want to go back to this data area that I showed you, this navigation bar. When I'm on the data area, it's going to show you fields. And a lot of people look at it and they go, that's nice, got fields. Well, we got fields, and we got fields, and we got fields. There's a lot of stuff in there. So you could expand these things. Like you can see that I've got like a, up and down arrow. You've got contact image fields, and you have description fields, and you have system fields, and you have your custom fields. So you can expand and close these things and see all the fields in your database. You also have things like related lists, which we're going to be using in a minute. For like, I want to see a list of my open tasks, or maybe I want to see my upcoming automated actions, or I want to see my open calls, or I want to see my deals, I want to see my notes. All of this stuff is going to be under related. And we also have stuff called actions. And I'll show you where those are in a minute. So find and merge duplicates. You might want to have a button right at the top of your screen that, oh, this is a duplicate. Well, let's go in there and find and merge the duplicates for this contact record. You might want to have an edit button up there. You might want to clone the contact. So if there's things that you do a lot, you can put it up there. Delete. You might say, oh, let's make an easy way to delete a contact. And here's a thought. If you're an administrator, you might want to have delete on the top of your canvas. If for the rest of the yo-yos that work under you, sorry, I should have said that. That wasn't kind. You could clone your canvas and just get rid of that delete button so they can't delete. What a thought. If the button's not there, it makes it hard to delete. We also have this little thing that ... which is the more button. And when you hit the ... like I showing you an example of how I did this, and have ... if you put the ... at the top of your canvas, it's going to give you a drop down for all those items. So that's kind of a cool thing. So you can either decide what items you want at the top, or you can put the dots and, have them drag it down, or not give them the dots so they can only do what you tell them to do. So we're going to add a new tab. And the process of adding a tab is that we're going to add a tab and name it. We're going to add a table to it. Why do I add a table to my tab? Because I'm really lazy and I'm uncoordinated. I like my fields to be exactly standardized. I don't like that if the left edges don't line up with each other, it drives me crazy. I like things to be very standard and very straight. So I personally add a table. If you don't want to add a table, if you want your fields to be all different sizes, you may do that too. That is your prerogative. It is your canvas. But this is the way I'm going to show you how to do it. And then we add fields to the table. So when you're looking at your layout, we have the top half up here, and then this is the act layout again. We had all these little tabs along the bottom. There is a sneaky little plus sign right here that lets us add a new tab. You might not be able to find it because it is sneaky, but it is there. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tabs right now, there's a plus sign that would add another tab. So when you hit that plus sign, it's going to say, would you want a new custom tab? And you're going to say, yes, I do. And it's going to call it unnamed tab. Now you may either continue to call it unnamed tab, or you can double click on those words and rename it to my new tab, my important stuff, customer stuff, Missy only, do not touch. You can call your tabs whatever your little heart desires. And in fact, if you want, you can go back and double click on any of things. You want to drive people crazy? Go back into notes, double click it and call it banana peel, and see how well that goes over with your staff. But I'm being facetious, but you can rename any tab that you want to whatever you want it to be. Now, here's where we go. When I added a new tab, I'm going over here to my navigation bar. Instead of being on data, I'm going down here to elements. And you can see we got different elements. We'll be getting back to these in a minute. We could drag a table. So I basically just take the table, drag it over to my new tab, and there I are. Now, this, again, there's a couple of little sneaky buttons that I wish they would have made bigger because they're sneaky. This table, really hard to look at. I know that this table has 2 columns, and I know this table has 2 columns because if I put my mouse, you'll see little section dividers. And this one had 1 section divider and it has a minus sign. That means instead of having 2 columns, I only wanted 1 column, I would hit that minus sign. If I want to add additional columns, I go over here and I find a minute, impossible to see plus sign. And if I hit that plus sign, it will add another column, and these will be evenly divided. I can go back and drag to make 1 column whiter than another column. Now, if you really get carried away, some of you are going to click this and you're not going to know that anything happened. So you're going to click it 5 times. Congratulations, you now have 7 columns. These 2 plus the 5 you just added. Not to worry. If you need to get rid of 4 of those last 5 columns you just added, just go up here and it'll get rid of the columns. You'll see if you have 5 columns, you'll see 5 little dividers, 4 little dividers between each column. You'll see this little guy, and this guy is also what lets you drag to make a column whiter, or what's the opposite of less white, skinnier. All right, so that's how we add those columns. Now what we start doing is we start dragging fields. So you're going to go back to your data component in your nav bar. Here's all your little fields, and you start dragging your fields, and you'll see how they kind of snap. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, and I started to drag them. It actually lined them up, and made them look very nice. If I don't want to, if I happen to see, oh, here's salutation, that's supposed to be down at the bottom, or, here's the account name, that's supposed to be over there, I can just drag it down here. I don't have to go in order. I can drag them, oh, here's email. Yeah, that's supposed to go here in the middle. It's supposed to go over here. I can drag those fields wherever I want, and it's going to snap into the cells of my table. Okay, Zoho has a lot of little shortcuts that I absolutely love. One is I'm working with someone right now, and she is on this call, and she will turn very red. She knows who she is. She has 850, yes, 850 fields in her ACT database on the contact screen. Can you imagine scrolling down 850 fields? That might be kind of a chore. But what you can do is actually search. You can search for fields. So say I'm looking for all the email fields. I could type in email, and it would show me all my email fields. Maybe I want to put all the phones together. I could type in phone, and it would show me cell phone and business phone and toll-free phone and all my phone numbers. In this case, I typed in city, and it showed me the mailing city and the other city. So if you love to scroll, be my guest and scroll. If you have an idea of what your field is called, you could go ahead and type, and it will find the appropriate fields, and then you can just drag them onto that layout. I personally find this really super intuitive and easy. Okay, so now we're going to get into other things. We talked about adding the fields up here, renaming them, removing them, adding a new tab that we called, I don't even have it here, but user group is an example, and adding that table to it, adding fields to it. But you also have that other stuff like activities and notes and opportunities. Those are totally customizable. I'm going to take you down memory lane. In ACT, anybody know how many tabs did we have in on our contact layout for activities in ACT? Anybody remember? How many activity tabs do we have in ACT? I am not seeing anybody answering. Where are my superstars? 7. Oh, Missy, how did you get 7? Sorry. Anybody else? Okay, we had one activity tab, and that activity tab showed us closed activities, it showed us open activities, it showed us histories. We had one activity tab. The problem is, and this is a true story, I met my husband through ACT's activity tab. 20-some years ago, he was one of my clients. He called me and he said, I'm looking at my activities and they all disappeared. I've lost all my activities. And life was very hard for him at that moment in his life. And I said, do you have your filters on? Remember filters? People would filter their activity tabs and they'd say, oh, just show me the open activities. Just show me the closed activities. Just show me future activities. Well, he had filtered it to show past activities, but he had none, and it was showing nothing. So we had one activity tab, but we could filter it. We can manage, and by the way, like I said, that was 20-some years ago, and we are still happily married. Hard to believe, but yes, it's a true story. You can, in Zoho, you can have as many activity tabs as you want. So I started you off with closed activities because that's kind of the way it was in ACT. But I'm showing you how you can change that. So you can go into this closed activities. So I clicked on closed activities, and I went back over to my data area. And oh, we have open activities and closed activities. So I dragged the open activities over here, and I dragged the closed activities over here. And then I said to myself, well, that's kind of stupid. It says closed activities, but I got open activities and closed activities. So I went back and renamed it because I can, double-clicked, and I changed it to activities. And now you have one tab that had your open activities and your closed activities. In another way that you might do this, you might have one tab for closed activities, one tab for open activities. On your closed activities, you could show your calls, your meetings, and your tasks. On your open activities, you can have your open calls and meetings and tasks. So you can micromanage this. You can have all your activities all lumped together, or you can have them separated. Okay. So the full field is one cell versus one for the header and one for the data. Answer that question. When you add that table, and you drag a field over, that cell will automatically fill with both the label and the field itself. It's not like ACT where the labels were separate, and sometimes the labels got separated from the field. So your label said cell phone, but your field was actually calling mobile field. Zoho won't let you do that. Your label and your field come over together. Great question. So if you have 4 columns, it's, one column will say cell phone, and then next to it 561-703, whatever the phone number is. So each column will have both the label and the data. There are so many different screens, pages in Zoho, I don't know their name to be able to edit them. Is there some sort of cheat sheet? For example, when I create a contact is chosen, what is the automatic layout that pops up called? The automatic layout that you see when you go into a contact is the standard layout. Since I have required fields, it won't let me move onto my layout until I complete them. So I'd like to move items around. Okay, when you move items around, you don't do it from the contact record. You go into your setup area, the little rosebud or gear, and you go into the customizations. Let me see if I can find that screen for you. If I don't know if I have a screenshot, I'm probably going to regret doing this because now I got to remember where to go back to. Okay, so when you went into the rosebud area and you hit customizations, you had modules and fields, and under modules and fields, that's where you have your layouts, your standard layout, and that's where you should start with making fields required or not required. Don't try to do this from a contact record. You need to do it over here in this customization area, okay? And I will also be showing you how you can assign your different layouts and canvases to your various users. And by the way, one way you can do it now, if you do have an existing canvas, scroll all the way back to any contact record. On the very bottom, it lets you pick what canvas or layout you want to use and assign it. That's one way to do it. But no, you can't be going into a contact record to try to move your fields around, okay? You got to do it through the customization area. Let's see, great question though. When did you drop in the canvas you're referring to? If you had a trial with me, I dropped in those canvases. What I usually do when you set up a new trial is I ask you to, what I ask you to do is go in and let me know what your credentials are. And when you let me know what your credentials are, I go in and I have a way that I could just drop in those canvases. Now, some of you signed up for your layouts or signed up for your accounts without me. You kind of forged ahead, and that's fine. I can still do it. So if you're not seeing them in there, let me know. But I always do that. As soon as somebody signs up for trial, it's the first thing I do. And the person said, it's to create a contact. No, you can't do this stuff from a create the contact screen. You can't do it there. You got to go into the back end to work on these layouts. Now, bear with me. Hopefully, I will get back to where it was. I think I was right here. Okay. Word to the wise, don't struggle. If you create something like this, oh, it says opportunities, but I got my open meetings on it. Not a problem. Theoretically, you could go, oopsie, sorry. You can click on this and you can delete this open meeting thing and then drag something else there. But if you're really, having trouble with it and you're really struggling, just get rid of it and add it again. It's not that hard. That's sometimes what I do. Okay, a couple of quick tips. Style. This is not Karen's forte, but it might be your forte. Under data, under elements, we have the style area. The style area is colors. So for example, if I click in the middle of this background here, this kind of dull gray, I can either pick a color. I can pick any of these colors. I can make it fuchsia if I so desire. Or if you know what the hex code is, what the heck, you can type in that hex code. Sorry, bad joke. You can also go down here to the advanced colors. Now, as you may or may not know, Zoho is an Indian company, and they have the British educational system. I happen to personally love the fact that they spell colors O-U-R-S, but that's me. I need to get a life. I think that's cool. But again, you can pick any of these colors. You could go down to the advanced colors, and it gives you one of those kind of wheel things. Pick whatever background you want. So we can add, that's how you change your layout colors. Okay, I like to tell people you only have to be smart for about 30 seconds, then you can be lazy. So what you can do, again, from that style section, you can click on a field. You can click on a field, like I clicked on this field over here, and I decided in my infinite wisdom that I wanted to have a turquoise background for the label, and I wanted to have navy blue for the field itself. No judgment, please. This is what I came up with. Now, what I could do is do a right click on that and add that to the presets, because in the style area, you're going to see something that says presets. So let's say I'd picked this I had 5 really important fields, and I just wanted those 5 fields. Every other field's going to, look like this, but I want 5 fields to really stand out. I can go back to any of those fields and right click and go into my presets. And there's my little preset. I added it to my presets. And then when I click on it, I can go back to my style and I have presets. And so I could go in, pick 5 fields and just hit preset. And it's going to remember the font, the color, the label, whatever style that you picked, because you might have this bolded and the name not bolded. This might be black. This might be purple. Who knows? But you can set those presets so that you don't have to keep doing it for every single field. Okay. So that's the preset. They're kind of cool. Not a fan, not that I am Picasso, but they also, in Zoho, pet peeve, they gave you a gallery. Sorry. I have yet to find anybody, and I hope no one here on this call has done this, who said to me, oh, I would really like to incorporate lavender into my layout. So these are the ones that kind of came out of the box. They have a gallery. The only one that I personally thought was okay was this kind of label one with the green, but they do give you some presets. I personally think they stink. That's just me. Maybe you like them. If you like them, you can pick fields and go into the gallery and use those. And by the way, when you go into the style, if you want to have rounded fields and you want to have different backgrounds, you can do all that stuff manually, because it will let you do literally whatever you want to your poor unsuspecting fields and backgrounds, and plunk in elements, do whatever you want. A lot of stuff there. We can add other elements to your layout. So for example, we went here before, we went to elements. That's how we added that table. That's also how you can add a new section. I showed you how to hit that plus sign. You could add a new section. Maybe you don't want it in the middle of your screen. Maybe you want a new section up at the top left corner. You can add a section wherever your little hearts desire. You can add text boxes. So if you have a section of fields that you want to call custom fields, you could have a little text box that says custom fields. Or if you say really important stuff, you can have a little section that you call really important stuff. You can put images like your logo. If you want to, put your logo up there, you can do that. Another quick tip. So you get stuck. You're working on this layout. You can't get it to work. You got a couple of options. First one you could do is take your laptop, your computer, your cell phone, whatever you're working on, pick it up, throw it against the wall. Might make you feel better until you realize you're going to have to buy a new laptop. So that's one thought. You could try to call me, but honestly, if it's at 2 a.m. or 1 a.m., I'm not going to be picking up that phone. And really, for questions on the layouts, I would rather you just email me. If you really run into problems, most of you, I have access to your accounts. If you're just struggling with getting one field to work right, or add a tab, or one little thing, if you email me, I can usually just hop on your system, fix it. It's going to go faster than by the time we play telephone tag and, try to do a remote session and get in there. But if you are a do-it-yourselfer and it is 2 a.m. and you haven't yet thrown your laptop against the wall, you can go down here and you got two things. You have a little question mark, which means you got a question, and you have this little thing that I think is supposed to be video. So the top one is going to go into KBs. Now, if you've ever seen the KBs in ACT, they were pretty basic, kind of, here's your information, 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys are much more chatty. Sometimes they'll give you examples, well, if you're doing this, some people like that, some people don't. They're a little bit more instructional, more information, background. They do eventually have the steps. It's not going to be just like a little paragraph. They're going to give you lots of information. They're going to reference other articles. They're going to give you steps. They're going to have pictures. If you are not a reader, if you were a video person, you can hit this video, and they have live training videos. So that's right down at the bottom of this nav bar. Pretty cute. Caution. And I used to say this when people were doing their layouts in ACT as well. My motto is save early and often. If you're sitting here and it's now 2 o'clock in the morning, you got really involved in this layout and it's looking really nice, you can never save too early or too often. You got the save button right there. Save, save, save. Okay, oopsie. So we can save. We could also, here's another word. There's a couple of places where you can assign the canvases, but here's also a canvas assignment button. So you could go down at the bottom of a contact record and you can assign it from there. You can assign it right from the setup area. You can assign it right from the canvas itself. So someone said, can I assign a layout to a record type, individual versus company, and have the layout automatically load when I look up the contact? Okay, kind of. That's not an automatic feature. Layouts are tied to users, not to information in our database. However, we can make customizations. That might be something that we would have to custom program. But if you say, hey, and I can check, that might be another thing that I could look for the automations when I do the automations webinar. Can I, if the ID status, for example, is vendor, show this layout. If the ID status is customer, show that layout. Because we do have a lot of stuff that if it doesn't come out of the box, we can custom create it. That's a very cool question. Not 100% sure the answer, but I think that we have to probably do some kind of either custom programming or see if one of the automations work for that. Great question. Okay, so the key takeaways. I was so proud of myself for this slide because I had the little key, but then I saw that it was all blurry, so now I'm not so proud of myself. So the key takeaways is we have our layouts and canvases. The layouts are kind of the standard ones that come out of the box. That's where you're going to go. That's where we talked about 2 weeks ago. That's where you're going to create all your fields. Then we have the canvases that are much more intense. We can start adding tabs, and we can start moving things around and add pictures and add colors and make them our own. We could start from scratch, or we could use an existing template, or you could use that canvas that I dropped in for you. I dropped in probably 8 for most of you, 2 for the opportunities, 2 for the accounts, 2 for the contacts, and 2 for the leads. Most of you. If I didn't like you, maybe you don't have them. I don't know. Okay, as always, got to give you a couple of, I might have forgotten the last step, and canvases can be assigned. Sorry about that. Canvases can be assigned. Layouts can be assigned to any of your users. So as always, I promise you bonuses. So here are your bonuses. And I found both of these bonuses. If you go into your little gear area to the setup area, I found them both under data administration. Left out my little circle under storage, but I think you could forgive me. And Nicole, I hope you're looking at this screen very carefully because you're going to see something in there that you might look familiar. So The data storage, the storage is really cool. I converted a database, and I know this is geeky, and I know you guys don't want to hear about this probably, but this customer had a over 6 gigabyte backup file. That means this whole database was compressed and still took over 6 gigabytes without attachments. I brought it into Zoho, and Steve, if you're on the call, you know I'm talking about you. He had over 500,000 notes. There were 43 users in that database. It was a big database. That 6 gigabyte backup file translated in Zoho to less than 1 gigabyte. Now, how can that be? Because the architecture in Zoho is so good. ACT has this SQL that they've used since 2005. It's very clunky. It's, if you know anything about Microsoft products tend to be memory hogs. They tend to be storage hogs. Now they're trying to put that SQL up on the ACT cloud. And that's why if any of you tried the ACT cloud, you're like, this is slow as heck. Even if you have your database on, one of the persons on the call here has custom tables, and she's telling me it's taking her 20 minutes. Yes, that would be 20, when she tries to open up certain things in the custom tables. That would be the person with 850 fields. And that's because of the architecture is just so kludgy. I compare it to a Tesla and a Model T. The Tesla, needless to say, is a little bit more energy efficient and goes faster than does the Model T. And I will show my ignorance. I don't even know if Teslas have engines, or are they just batteries? I think they're just batteries. I don't think they have engines. But anyway, you can see my point. They've made changes, so the architecture is so much better, and that's why it takes up so much less space and works faster. The other thing is we have something called the sandbox, and here's the sandbox. Sandbox. This is something that IT people love. A lot of you won't even care about it, but the idea of a sandbox is, say you're trying to, you want to try something. You want to try a custom table. You want to try some custom fields. You want to try something, and you've got a live database. Unlike ACT, we can make changes on a live database. Your users can be in there, and you can be adding fields, and you can be taking away fields. You don't have to knock them out. Problem is, sometimes you make changes and you don't like the changes. You screwed up. Trust me, I can screw up. You can screw up. So you can go in and make something called a sandbox. You go down here to sandbox. You create a new sandbox, and it will ask if you want to copy all your data over and all your customizations. It literally clones your entire database. And then you can literally go in. It gives you a little URL. You can go in there. You can add tables. You can add all kinds of cool things. Someone who shall remain nameless will see her company name up there because I made a sandbox for her company so I could try. I was trying to do something, and I had a couple of different thoughts on how I could do it. So I put it in a sandbox, and you can see that I made 12 changes. I added 11 things, and I updated one thing. And then if you really like it, you can deploy it. And now all those changes go into your live database. If you don't like it, you just erase it and say, okay, and you get multiple sandboxes. I know it's geeky. It makes Karen happy. And if Karen's happy, you're happy. Any more questions? Any more questions? Not seen any? Remember, if you're interested in moving to Zoho, do it through me. I'm going to give you those little, drop those little ACT layouts in your account that we talked about, so that you'll have those. And all my customers are getting 3 free months, which is kind of a nice deal, especially if you have a lot of users, like Steve with his 43 users. The next meeting is Wednesday, March 12th. I'm tentatively doing it on that home tab and dashboard because I really like that feature. I'll go back and look at that poll. I might change it to automations if it went out, but first one of them in March is going to be the home tab, and probably the second one is going to be automations. You know where to find me. You know my email. I'm not going anywhere. Does anybody else? Will this be available to watch again? No, unfortunately, I used to send out recordings. If you really ask me, I will send you out my slides. Unfortunately, what happened is one of my very nice people that attended my webinar started passing all mine. I put a lot of time into these presentations, started passing them on to other consultants. And I just put in too much time to have these passed into the wrong hands. So if you really need it, because I know this was a pretty technical one, reach out to me. And if you're nice to me, I'll probably send you those slides. Okay, other questions? And thank you for understanding. I mean, it was kind of upsetting that somebody would do that, but hey, I'm here for you. You got questions, I'm going to take care of you. All right, guys, I will see you on the 12th. Tell your family and friends. If you know anybody else that you think might be a good fit for Zoho, let me know. I'll add them to the list, and I will see you on the 12th. Thanks, everybody. Bye.